Hi all, my name is Matt from Ratho Quarter. This video is the first in a series of videos walking through the mix approach to my song Basilisk, which has appeared on this channel several times in the past. I originally made these videos for a couple very close friends of mine who were curious about my approach to the song, but I like the delivery so much that I've decided to upload the videos here. I'm not a professional producer, so the mix approaches I show in these videos are purely my own experimentation. But with a bit of luck, those approaches will give you a couple ideas to try in your own work. There is a link to the final song in the description below. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks very much. Cheers. Alright lads, so here we are in Studio One to take a look at how I mixed that song Basilisk. I guess hopefully this will be something which is useful for you guys, but then obviously it's going to be a good record for me, and if it kind of seems useful then maybe I'll upload it to YouTube. So I'm in the session file now. I've turned off everything except for the drums, the kind of drum master bus, and we can take a quick listen to how it sounds on its own. It's just important to say that this isn't going through the kind of typical mastering that I actually did for this song. This is just a very basic mastering that I've stuck on the end of this session file. I would normally actually do the mastering in a different session entirely, but there's just some a limiter and stuff on this just to make it a bit more listenable for us. So drums obviously all MIDI. Typically these days I'm using One Kit Wonder Metal, and I've got it in the kind of mix ready preset. Normally when I'm writing, what I would do is use Easy Drummer, and obviously I've got a huge kind of library of MIDI that I've invested money in over the years with Toontrack, and their MIDI packs are really good. I'm sure if you haven't seen them, let's just make a quick track so we can have a quick look. There we go, Easy Drummer, and let's drop it on. And so yeah, in the browser here I've got loads of stuff. This one's by Mario Duplantier from Gojira. There's loads of different kind of MIDI packs in here which are super useful. So very often I'll end up writing with just grabbing bits and pieces from this big library I've got, and because of that I'll end up just working in Easy Drummer during the writing stage. Obviously the MIDI isn't entirely compatible between Easy Drummer and GGD, so at that stage I'll use this MIDI remap online tool, which does a pretty damn good job, especially if you set it up correctly and you know where your MIDIs come from and where you plan to use it. That tends to work pretty well, so that once I've got a good part worked out, I can then just transfer it over to GGD and everything. It doesn't always work perfectly, but 9 times out of 10 it's absolutely fine. And when it doesn't, it just requires a tiny bit of tweaking. What I tend to do when I'm writing is I will bastardize that library of MIDI quite badly. I'll end up chopping it up. This song is a really good example because you can see that the time signature changes dramatically. It's 3/4, and then a handful of bars later it's 2/4, then 3/4 again, then 2/4, then 3/4 for a while, then 2/4. So no MIDI I'm going to get from Easy Drummer will do anything like this. So I end up having to chop up little bits and pieces and move kicks and snares around to kind of get what I want based on the guitar part that I've written. Anyway, once we've converted that MIDI and then brought it into GGD, obviously it's kind of just pasted out like that basically in the entire structure of the song. And what I will do is, while I have got this set to mix ready, that's not really where I leave it, I would say. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but I end up splitting the kit out and sending each of the kit pieces to separate channels. I don't go to a super granular detail. We've got the effects pass, which with these One Kit Wonders, it's really important to note that those are usually reserved on on the first channel basically. So your kick will be the second channel, snare, and then I've got the rack toms, floor toms on their own, and overheads and room. So it's like pretty simple, and obviously you can see the corresponding like tracks, channel strips here. So there's our effects, there's our kick, there's our snare, etc., so on and so forth. All of those are then bused to something which I have called the drum master. So those all go to this single bus here. And there's processing on the individual kit pieces and very minor level adjustments on the different kit pieces. And then those all go to the drum master where there's additional processing. Also, kind of like important thing for me, I guess, is like I almost always start with all my drums at minus 10 dB. So that when I'm adding stuff to that, as it's just gain staged in such a way that obviously when I get into limiting, it's not too loud, and there's quite a bit of scope for me to modify the sound without it starting to clip. Yeah, I mean, I guess let's take all I really tend to do is like some processing on the kick drum, some processing on the snare drum, and then the overheads and the room mics, because that's where you get like obviously the cymbals, those are represented by those two. So just looking at the kick drum, what have I done here? So this is something I wanted to try on, something I really wanted to try on this mixing session, which I didn't do on the last one, because I kind of felt like maybe, certainly with this song, it's like down in, it's basically bass 6 tuning, so it's super low. And I've sometimes felt like that becomes like a bit unwieldy, and you want like a really strong grounded kick drum to just really anchor everything and help glue everything together, and just like a good foundation for all of that like quite distorted and then quite low guitar content to hang off of. So something that I thought would be cool to try was actually just like clipping the kick drum. So you're actually like removing some of the transients, if I understand it correctly. And I've ended up using this plugin called JST Clip, which, I mean, it's from Joey Sturgis Tones. It's like super simple. It's literally turning the knob up, and then I think I've trimmed it back down again so that when I turn it on, it's basically like it's just changing the tone. It's not changing the volume. Because obviously if you just make everything louder, you'll like kid yourself that it's better, because like louder is better all the time. So like maybe what we'll do is I'll just turn these things off. I'll just turn off all the processing and we can just step through it real quick. So that's it with like literally no processing. Let's just do the kick drum just by itself. Okay, so if I turn on the clipper, I mean, that has got louder, but you can also hear it's gotten more impactful. Which honestly, like, I really think you need when all the instruments are tuned as low as they are in a song like this. It just becomes harder and harder to mix the lower you go, and it ends up becoming like needing to be a bit more unnatural in some ways. Then on top of the JST Clip, there's this plugin that I use all the time on drums called the Shep's Parallel Particles. And I think I got it from Waves. I think it's a Waves plugin. Yeah, there you go, Waves. And it's a super weird plugin. I discovered it through like this electronic music channel on YouTube, but it's really cool. It's just like a parallel processor. So like parallel drum compression, but you don't need to make the whole parallel chain. You can just stick it on there. And I think it's basically doing that kind of like behind the scenes, but then also it's got like, it's doing parallel compression on like, it's almost like multiband. It's doing parallel compression on different areas. So it's got the sub, it's got thickness, bite, and air. And I'm guessing those are like focused on different areas of the EQ of the kick drum, and so you can kind of shape it and add a little bit more character. And this is really great for, again, like the clip, just adding some real like impactfulness to the kick drum. Yeah, I mean, hopefully you can hear that. Like, it just suddenly is a lot more impactful. And then what have I got? Oh, this is funny. This is basically just an EQ, which is not doing anything. It's just an EQ so that I could see what was happening with the frequencies and like where the kind of like main important key frequencies of this kick drum were. Anyway, then I have also sent this to, where are these going? Oh yeah, I got you. These are going to like sidechain compressor. God knows where. Yeah, okay. This is going to a sidechain compressor for the bass guitar, so let's not worry about that right now. Those sends will literally not make any difference to us right now. And then just listen to the snare. Hopefully you can hear the snare here. So that's it on its own. Then I've done a tiny bit of like EQ to, probably because you can hear there's like a little random ring. I don't know that really helps that much. Yeah. So yeah, you can hear those like weird ringing out frequencies that I was trying to get rid of. And then just maybe trying to add some like slap to it or something. Super simple anyway. And then again, I'm using that Shep's parallel particles thing, which is sick. Oh, so much more impactful. I mean, this is getting louder, so for sure I'm like conning myself a little bit. You can see I've dropped the output a bit to try and like equalize it a little, but obviously it is getting louder, and it's, you know, just some nice parallel compression there without having to do the whole setup. To be honest, I probably wouldn't use this all the time. I probably would do the thing with like setting up a parallel compressor for some of the drum kit pieces. But this is just quite simple, and obviously it allows me to focus on different areas. Like, I'm not really introducing a lot more sub on the kick drum, whereas on the bass drum, there is a little bit of sub getting added there. Yeah, you can see. And it's like, it's very subtle. And like something I'll often do with this is like automate this. So like in a chorus, this will be on, and in a verse, it'll be off. Like wherever you need the kind of quiet, loud thing. If you need it to almost like feel like your drummer's like really malleting the drums, then you can kind of introduce this. And then for the sends on the snare drum, I've sent it to a short reverb, which always like changes the character of the snare drum. Shit, there's a lot there, and it's changing the sound quite a lot. And this is going to my short reverb. So let's see, I've got where are my reverbs? Oh, here they are. These are all my like effects channels. There's a lot of them. And I've got a dedicated one for the short snare. And this Valhalla vintage verb is awesome. And this is literally just a preset called NL Snare Gut Punch, which is kind of sick, and it sounds like that's what it is. It's kind of like a short thing, but like it does change the characteristic of the snare a lot and gives it more impact. Like loads. And then obviously just to make it a bit more moody and like kind of give it some space, it's going to a long reverb as well, which is probably also Valhalla vintage verb, and this one's called Lots of Space, which is actually a little bit kind of like modulated and weird, I think. yeah, I mean, you can hear like almost some like, I don't know, almost like a little bit of kind of distortion or something on the reverb tail. I'm not really sure what this is. Maybe it's something to do with diffusion. I'm not really sure, but it's kind of like almost it's almost like a kind of bit crushing effect on the reverb tail there. God knows. Again, I just used a preset on that, but it sounded cool to me. So then one of these last ones, this is the overheads. And what have I done here? Fab filter. This is, again, I'm using a preset for drums, for overheads, and this one's called hard hitting. And all I've really adjusted is the threshold. So like these, you know, if you use a preset, I mean, it's fine. It's obviously affecting things like the ratio and the attack speed and stuff. But what's almost always wrong with a compressor preset is that the threshold will be wrong, because by and large this is like a fixed thing, and it's not, they don't know how loud your incoming signal is. So you want to adjust this to where it makes sense based on the volume and the input signal, basically. And then often I'll end up adjusting the gain, the output gain as well, just so once again it's not like way louder or something. I mean, it is a tiny bit louder, but yeah, just more compressed. You can hear that. And then I think I was having some trouble. I was having some issues with this mix sounding really harsh after everything had gone through mastering. And this is a plugin I spent a lot of money on, and it's like one of those ones where it's like, is it really doing very much? I'm not sure. But I've stuck this on to... literally, this is a preset called Simple Smooth, because there was like harsh frequencies happening. And you can see it does that incredibly like fine tooth EQ, dynamic EQ to I mean, it's based on its own like algorithm and understanding of what is harsh and what needs to be soothed. But I mean, it's okay. It kind of does the job. It's very subtle most of the time. I mean, I think you can make it not very subtle, but honestly, I don't use it very much. And then I've just done a little bit of my own thing. Yeah, so you can hear those two notches that I've taken out don't sound great. So they were definitely like kind of offensive frequencies, but these are things I had to go hunting for like much later on, like when I started mastering. Those frequencies were really apparent and annoying and didn't sound very good. So those two things, we're trying to get rid of those to very much at the end of the mixing process. Then we've got the room. And again, this is like a compressor, presets, room, mid-focused, punch, whatever, that's the name of the preset. And again, I've had to adjust the threshold, and I've adjusted the output gain a bit. I think this one, oh no, sorry, my bad, it was the overheads. I ended up adjusting the output gain a lot on the overheads because this compressor was also accentuating that like really harsh, super high-end stuff around here that you could hear in the final master. This one, I think I probably just adjusted the threshold. Just squashing everything basically and bringing some of the higher fizzy sounds more into focus. So then all together, now, all of that is going to the drum bus where I've turned off all these plugins. So what's happening on the master drum bus? This is funny. This is like an EQ preset called drums. Once again, I think there was probably another, like another cue. I think I probably ended up adjusting one of the Q values or kind of like lowering one of these a little bit so that it wasn't accentuating so much of the kind of this content up here. And then what was the next plugin? Oh, again, same thing. I'm taking out some of the stuff that we didn't want to hear. So let's just turn those on. Something that is important to note in this particular mixing session is let's have a quick look. Drum master, what is that guy doing? Oh, here we go. So in the verses and the choruses, that's where you can see I've got some automation here, and that was literally turning on and off the JST clip. So you can see right there the JST clip is active, and that's that kind of like more punch and impact for the kick drum. Oh, right, there we go. So it's not bypassing it, it is simply reducing the mix. So it's basically just, the effect is retained, but it's just a little bit more subtle in the verses so that that kick drum isn't as big and as impactful. And that is the drums. Let's check out bass after that.